friends to Lake Placid in New York State. They spent the day skiing without incidents, and at 2 p.m. they were getting ready to head back to the cabin, but Danny told them he would have to go get his phone from his car and then catch up with them. It should have only taken a few minutes, but he never arrived. And after a few hours of waiting and calling his cell phone with no answer, his friends became very worried. A week later, Danny's wife claimed that she'd gotten a call from him, but that his voice seemed faint and incoherent before he hung up. She called the number back and talked to him again, but he seemed really confused and unsure of where he was. This had been the first tip to come in, and police acted on it and finally managed to track him down all the way across the country in Sacramento, California, thousands of miles away from where he had last been seen, oddly still dressed in full skiing gear, with a haircut and a new iPhone. And he couldn't remember anything of how he'd come to be there or what had happened to him.
Just be like, what the? What?
Right.
Guess they really just did not like his look.
Okay.
Haircut and a new iPhone. Okay, the haircut I could get. What's with the new iPhone? I'm sorry, I'm really confused right now.
I don't like your phone style. Take a new one.
Yeah.
Well, the best anybody could come up with is that he had fallen down while skiing and suffered head trauma, which put him in a daze and gave him amnesia. But nobody knows how he got to California. Nobody knows where he got the phone and haircut.
Wow.
The closest he's come is he seems to kind of remember being in a truck at some point passing through Utah. But he doesn't know. Nobody knows if that has a connection to anything or if it's even a real memory.
What a deal.
Now we go back to another kid, and this is going to, I'll be honest with you, this is for my money just about the weirdest 411 case I've come across. And I've heard it on other places, so I had to include it because to me it's textbook missing 411.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So it's a three and a half year old boy. And let's call him John Doe. He and his relatives were camping by a popular fly fishing location near Mount Shasta, California. Now, before we get too into this, Mount Shasta is legendary among the native people for being a bad place.
And also for having good soda. Oh, no, that's just Shasta. My bad.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say that, too. I was just like, isn't that the soda?
Around 6 p.m. that night, the child's parents realized their son had suddenly gone missing. According to the dad, the youngster was there 1 second, gone the next. They scoured the area he had been seen in complete panic-stricken horror. After hours of feverishly searching for the little boy, still had not turned up. They were desperate, they were distraught, they called the local police, and deputies and the United Forest Service officers fanned out looking for this child. They combed the forest looking for the kid. Well, in the night, there's no sign of the toddler. 5 hours later, they found the boy laid down on the brush directly next to a trail that had been previously searched. He appeared to be in a dazed, semi-conscious state. His parents attributed this to exhaustion and were simply grateful to have their little one home. Medical staff gave full clearance to the freshly reunited family and were permitted to return home. Everyone's lives quickly went back to normal, but a few weeks later, the small boy would share some information that would make this case even more interesting. Now, his grandmother's name was Kathy, but everybody called her Cappy with a K. Probably because that's what he called her at some point, and it just stuck.
Yeah, that happens.
But he was staying with her, and out of the blue he told her he didn't like the other Grandma Cappy. She was a little confused.
Well, yeah.
And so she asked him what he meant. Well, he explained that while he was lost in the woods, he had been taken deep inside a mountainside cave by a woman he thought was Grandma Cappy. She led him into a cool, dark, spider-infested room filled with motionless humanoid robots. Scattered across the floor were dusty purses, guns, and various other weapons and gear.
Huh.
And this is where I bring in my fact about why I think the freaking mountain has to do with this.
As John anxiously faced his grandma Cappy, he noticed an eerie light radiating from her head. In this moment, he realized she was not his real granny. Now, at that point, fake Grandma Cappy wants him to do his business on a piece of paper.
And this is the 2-year-old still?
3.5-year-old. But yeah, she wants him to do his business on a piece of paper. Like, drop a deuce on a piece of paper.
Ew.
What are you trying to do?
She's trying to make him go poo on a piece of paper.
No, but not that. I'm just like, are you trying to clone the kid?
Stool specimen, yeah, that sounds like a possibility.
I don't know, but the child refused, and he was and angrily so, in a way that only a small child could be, because children that young, they tend to learn boundaries to certain things, right? And so once they realize my poo goes in the toilet, they don't want to do it anyplace else, most of them.
Yeah.
They're just like, what? Excuse me? No.
And so she argued with him, and finally she just sort of got fed up with it, and she told him that he'd been placed in his mother's womb, and he was actually from outer space, and then she took the boy outside to a thicket and said to wait there for help, and disappeared.
Wow.
Now,
Just be like,
upon hearing this story, Grandma Cappy called her son and said, "What the hell are you allowing this kid to watch?"
Yeah, well, I can definitely. Sounds about like what your mother would say if Lexi told her that.
Well, Dad says, "It ain't me. He told me the same story 2 days ago. I just put it down to an overactive imagination." But Grandma Cappy had a story of her own. A year before, she'd gone on a camping trip within close proximity to where the child's ordeal had occurred. In the morning, she awoke face down in the dirt. Somehow, she had been inexplicably removed from the sleeping bag within her tent and transferred a short distance away. Upon rousing, she felt an intense pain at the base of her neck. 2 puncture wounds were present, and the surrounding skin was red and inflamed. Another friend who accompanied her on the excursion suffered a matching affliction. They originally attributed their injuries to a possible spider bite.
hold on.
Or a probe.
Oh.
Both her and her companion became violently ill. In fact, she was so sick that she could not even muster the strength to pack her things.
Mountain vampire.
She tried to recall what had happened hours ago. Only one thing surfaced: glowing red eyes. Now, red eyes, one thing I know about red eyes, no animal in the world has red eye shine. Not one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no.
Red eye shine is unknown in the animal kingdom and pretty much unknown in the human kingdom.
Unless you're like really rare.
Now, she had dismissed her episode, but she wasn't dismissing it anymore after this kid had his experience.
Right.
Got it.
Okay, you got it? You tell me, because I can't make heads or tails of this bottle of
Okay,
juice.
hold on. You know how the thing, the one who acts like the auntie, wants to get the kid to poop on the piece of paper.
Yes.
So, that might have been the thing that is copying the grandma. Because, the grandma, you know how she got bit, right?
Right.
She's taking the DNA and using it as a body form for the grandma, for the kid to listen to her, so she can have his DNA to turn another one of these whatever these things are into the kid itself. Basically like a changeling, but I think of it as a mountain vampire.
Or alien spiders, because they did say the cave was full of spiders.
That might have been the children.
Now, legends and lore about Mount Shasta have persisted throughout the centuries. Indigenous tribespeople chronicled a fallen race of prehistoric giants that were said to live in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Others claim beings known as Lemurians use local caves as entrances to an underground crystal city called Telos. Some allege a large energetic vortex is present within the territory. In modern times, there are many UFO and Bigfoot sightings reported. 26,000 visitors each year flock to Mount Shasta from around the globe.
Yeah.
And there have been alarmingly high numbers of curious missing person cases within that picturesque region.
Well, of course.
So, like I said, one of the oddest stories we're going to hear today. And it's the one that just, yeah, maybe it's a kid and he's just, but what about Grandma's story then? What
does Grandma have to do with this? See, it connects for me because of everything that's going on in the story and how I paid attention to it. But I could just be using my 11-year-old mind and being like, is that really what happened? But if so, if you are listening to this podcast, whatever you are, please don't come looking after me at night and bring me into your mountain cave. I do not want to be dragged into a cave for exposing y'all.
Okay. So now we go to, in September of 2003, to the remote tundra of, and I have no idea how to say what this is, so I'm just going to spell it, Kuujjuaq, Quebec. I don't have a clue how to pronounce that. Kuujjuaq, Quebec.
No, I'm not even going to try.
I'm not either.
Kuujjuaq, Quebec.
But 51-year-old James Rambone Jr. was on a hunting excursion with 3 friends.
You go, James Rambone.
Looking for caribou.
Oh.
It was supposed to be an 8-day unguided hunt out of Camp Sardine near the scenic Kanapiskau River. Rambone was an experienced and seasoned hunter who knew what he was doing. On September 3rd, 2003, he made a sighting of a large caribou outside of camp, and he excitedly grabbed his rifle and stalked out after it. This was totally normal, and none of the other hunters thought anything of it. Mm-hmm. Until the hours passed by, and there was no sign of their friend.
He never came back.
The worried men then organized a search for him, and they soon came across the carcass of a large bull caribou. Rambone's camera was lying on the ground near it, and his orange hunting vest had been neatly hung up on a nearby tree.
Huh.
But there was no other sign of the missing hunter. A full, intensive search for the hunter began, covering 36 square kilometers around the area using aircraft tracker dogs. No sign of Rambone could be found, and the dogs were unable to pick up a trail. It was as if he just simply ceased to exist. Also in 2003, Alan Theis, maybe it's Theis, T-H-E-I-S, of Minnesota disappeared. In November of that year, Theis was on vacation hunting deer in the upper Missouri River Breaks area of Montana. If you don't know, the Missouri River runs actually all the way up, well, it starts way up above us, but it goes through Montana on the way to go through Missouri.
Speaking of rivers, Tigris River is the longest river.
Yes, I know that. Also, the Tigris-Euphrates River is where mankind started, they think.
Yeah.